Hello everyone, this is Sora Kieran, back again with Steam-ponies, Chapter 2. Um, so let's see what happened to Rainbow Dash. If you recall, she was called back to HQ, so let's see what happens. Rainbow Dash banked her tiny craft and turned it toward the huge operations zeppelin, the Imperator. The zeppelin thrust out its landing pad and she swooped deftly onto the platform, which retracted into a gondola of the airship. Orange Flourish, her Earth Pony engineer, trotted over to the machine as she climbed from the cockpit and dropped it lightly to the steel platform, stretching her wings and pulling off her flight goggles. Orange never really liked his name, and only a few of his closest friends, Dash included, knew his real name. To everyone else, he was simply known as Greaser, mostly due to the fact that he couldn't manage to work on a single machine without getting totally covered in oil stains. Your orders are to report to the flight briefing room. Something serious is going on, I reckon. Orange had to shout to be heard over the noise of the aero engines, the clanging and grinding of gears, and the sound of mechanics at work. Dash blinked in surprise. Huh? What do you think is going on exactly? She said. Orange shrugged and replied simply, I have no idea. Maybe we're moving out, I don't know. All I know is that all private craft have been grounded for the time being. Looks like you'll be flying the FE for now. I already got her refueled, rearmed, and ready to go. Anyway, you better get moving. You're already... Orange paused to flip open his pocket watch. He looked at it for a second or two, and then continued. Oh, let's see. Now, 2 minutes late? Guess you aren't as fast as you say you are, huh? He chuckled as he turned his attention to the auto-gyro. Dash rolled her eyes at this, but she didn't say anything. If it had come from anyone else, it would have been a serious insult, but you had to let the mechanic make jokes at your expense because without them you'd never get off the ground. She turned and cantered off into the ship. She had preferred using her wings, of course, but the corridors weren't high enough to fly in. Maybe she could have tried it, but she didn't fancy colliding with one of the many steel pipes protruding from the ceiling. They looked pretty solid, and she reasoned that her skull wouldn't crack before the pipe did. She thought about what Orange had said. Looks like you'll be flying the FE for now. The FE-2B? Wasn't that a difficult machine to fly? But she much preferred her own auto-gyro. She'd bought the rusted old machine at rock-bottom price, and over the years she'd modified and improved the machine until it felt like part of her. The flight briefing room was located amid-ship. High ceilings and bare walls. The briefing room was circular, save for one wall directly in front of the benches, which was flat. The benches were set out in a semicircle, and each row was positioned slightly higher than the last, giving the impression of an auditorium or a lecture theater. It was already fairly crowded when she arrived. She hastily found a seat on the very top tier of benches. The majority of the pilots were Pegasi, but she spotted the odd griffin or two mixed in amongst the crowd. The room buzzed with conversations of excited and curious pilots, and Dash couldn't help but wonder why they'd all been called here. She didn't have to wait long to find out, as a small group of senior officers suddenly trotted through the door and arranged themselves in the center of the briefing room. And, mixed in with the officious military types, and very look out of place, she saw a very studious-looking elderly unicorn. She recognized him immediately. It was Professor Emerald Snow, who was widely recognized as being the best scientist in Metropolis, and perhaps even all of Equestria. She didn't recognize the young purple-maned unicorn standing beside him. And slightly to the right, she turned her attention back to the center of the room, as the green Pegasus, whom they all knew as Captain Thunder, the commander of the Imperator, stepped up onto the podium in the exact center of the room and began to speak. Good evening. You're probably all wondering why I called this briefing, so I'll make it as simple as possible. As all of you probably know, sky pirate activity has been fairly minor for the past year, but that's changed. We've been getting reports of a huge pirate fleet that suddenly appeared in the northern reaches. They've set up shop right in the middle of the northeast and northwest trading lane, and they're raiding any ship that comes through, and they haven't stopped there. They've been raiding skyports, attacking some of the smaller ground-based settlements, and caused a host of other problems. We're pretty sure that it's one pony that's organizing the whole thing, pulling all the strings and such. Obviously, the Trading League is more and a little upset about this whole situation, so they've naturally been blaming the council, and they're demanding that they do something about it. So, as of tomorrow, the entire fleet will be moving out and heading up to the northern reaches. Our sister ship, the Titan, is already out there, and she's probably blasting pirates as I speak. We're going to put a stop to the actions of these pirate scum. Now, on the brighter note, the esteemed Professor Emerald Snow will be joining us on this venture. I'm afraid that I'm not at liberty to tell you why, but it's important that you behave politely, and that you do your best to make sure that he and his assistant feel welcome. You may now return to your posts and begin preparing for tomorrow. That is all. One of the most powerful and dangerous classes of airship in Equestria, the Dauntless-class missile cruiser, is only outsized by the brand new carrier and few individual vessels such as the Celestial, the official flagship of the entire Equestrian Navy, the pinnacle of Lion-O battle warship technology. The Dauntless lies on the verge of naval revolution. While it keeps its main armament in its 18 Triton missile launchers, its effective firepower is multiplied several times by the addition of newer, larger guns and high-mobility mounts. 6 8-inch cannons per side are housed in armored wide-angle casemates, and 6 14-inch guns are contained in the armored gun turrets, 2 housed within the ship, 1 port and 1 on starboard, and 1 on the aft decks. Powerful and accurate, these larger guns are capable of dealing devastating damage with long range, often before enemy ships can close within broadside range. Twin magic-enhanced steam engines give the airship a more respectable top speed and make it capable of gaining altitude more quickly than any other large ship of its type. This is what the lookout of the pirate vessel, Blood Moon, saw through his telescope in the gray light of dawn. His reflection was perfectly understandable in such a situation. He fell out of the observer's neck. Oh, it's a reaction. Whoops. He fell out of their observer's necks in surprise. Luckily for this unfortunate sky pirate, he tumbled backwards and down through the hatch that he had climbed through a few hours before, and not over the rail of the nest, which would have probably resulted in becoming red smear on the ground many miles below. Instead, he fell down the ladder and landed painfully on the deck of the ship. The rest of the crew greeted this spectacle with raucous laughter. The lookout struggled to his feet and yelled at the top of his lungs, "Navy ship approaching! Dauntless class!" The laughter stopped abruptly as he pointed towards the naval vessel that was coming towards them from the south. For a few seconds, the entire ship was silent. Then the ship burst into life as the crew began to panic. The captain stared directly in the direction the lookout was pointing and swallowed nervously. He'd been assured that there weren't any naval ships in the area, but now he was looking at one of the most dangerous vessels in the Equestrian Navy could field, and it was coming straight for his hopelessly outclassed ship. "Throw anything we don't need overboard. We need to lose weight and fast," he shouted. As he turned the wheel in full circle, the ship banked right as the ship span about and attempted to flee from the oncoming vessels. Barrels, chairs, tables, and crates were tossed over the side of the ship. The captain watched as furniture tumbled through the air, down towards the ground below. He knew it wouldn't make any difference. The naval vessel was much, much faster than his ship, and it was only a matter of time before it came into range. He didn't have long to wait. He heard the dull thud as the immense cannons of the naval ship came into range, and the shrill whine of shell as it hurtled toward him. It missed the pirate vessel by several meters, but he knew it wouldn't take long until the gunners found their mark. He inhaled, closed his eyes, and prepared to give the order to abandon ship. But a hoof that had suddenly been shoved into his mouth stopped him. He stared at the pony that had silenced him. It was their mysterious guest, the one in the long black coat. "Shush, I have a better idea. This is the perfect time to demonstrate the power of my new device," the mysterious unicorn hissed, and the captain stared at him and nodded slightly, his hoof removed from his mouth. "Now stop the ship," the cloaked unicorn said simply. The captain stared at his guest. "Are you mad? We'll be a sitting duck," he shouted. "I think not," the unicorn replied. "I won't ask again. Stop the ship. Now." The captain reluctantly obliged, pulling the lever that deployed the air brakes. The ship slowly glided to a stop. The cloaked unicorn trotted over to the stern of the ship. and placed the device he'd been carrying on his back onto the deck of the ship. The device seemed to glow slightly. As the unicorn positioned it to face the oncoming vessel, he pushed a series of buttons with his hoof, and then looked up expectantly. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the clouds above the huge naval ship seemed to glow, and a beam of light suddenly shot down out of the clouds. It smashed through the exact center of the enemy ship as a huge shockwave rocked the pirate vessel. Everyone on board was thrown to the floor, and the captain stared as the Navy vessel, blasted clean in two, plummeted towards the ground, engulfed in flames. He struggled to his feet and stared at the terrifying spectacle. Eventually, he broke his gaze away from the obliterated ship and turned to look at the unicorn that had fired that device. The unicorn stared back at him, a vicious, victorious smirk upon his face, and the captain soon broke into a grin as well. Nothing could stop them now. And that's the end of Chapter 2 of Steam-ponies. I hope you enjoyed, guys. Please rate, comment, subscribe, like, all that fun stuff. And have a good day.